The song goes like this.
Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. Welcome to Trial and Error, where I play the first part of a game or a game demo, usually do that pretty badly, and give you my thoughts along the way. This time I'm taking a look at the Bard's Tale 4 Director's Cut on the PlayStation 4. I've been looking forward to this, but also with a bit of hesitation. I love dungeon crawls, but dungeon crawls of the right type. I like multiple genres. I like action RPGs, I like turn-based RPGs. I'm not as big into tactical stuff, so I have to be in a real particular season and mood in my life to get into a tactics RPG. But I've found that I really enjoy some of the grid-based, turn-based dungeon crawlers. I've been loving a little game called Elmanage Original. And I think it's specifically just the core elements of not too complicated turn-based combat. I don't want this big, huge, brain-burning tactical fest, but just some interesting choices, some careful choices that I need to make, but that also really has that nice upgrade path, and the pace of upgrading is good with your abilities and your equipment and stuff like that. That whole process of getting better and stronger and kind of grinding your way through a dungeon is really fun for me. I would compare my interests in some ways to the early Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior, games. I don't like them to be too simplistic. Sometimes those games can be a little bit too simplistic. I just like to have interesting choices. I also like the really, just for lack of a better word, traditional D&D aesthetic, where the visual aesthetic is a serious one, it's not a cartoony one, and magic is visible and is spectacular. So games like Dragon Age and The Witcher, even though I don't like the gameplay as much in The Witcher, but that kind of aesthetic and environment of serious D&D style, fantasy world, that's totally my thing. So I'm not always game for, all the Etrian Odysseys or the Labyrinth of Refrains and stuff like that, because they'll have some of that weird, cutesy anime vibe that I'm not into. It's the same reason Dragon Quest has not been scratching that itch for me as well in recent years, because the anime aesthetic is more and more prominent as the graphics have gotten cleaner. So I've really been looking forward to this game based on what I've seen of the PC version. The one real hesitation I have is that it's very puzzle heavy, as I understand it, and I hate puzzles. I really hate puzzles. To me, they are an interruption to the type of gameplay that I really come to a dungeon crawler for. And so I'm hoping that maybe with the use of guides online, or maybe they won't be so difficult or whatever, that they don't halt my gameplay, that much. I'm just hoping that they won't be a big obstacle for my enjoyment. And I'm hoping that because there are other elements of this game from what I've seen that will really scratch my itch in a way that other dungeon crawlers just haven't for a long time. I'm also a little bit curious about the themes that may or may not be present in this game. I discovered last month that the original creator of the Bard's Tale series is a Christian that actually has formal education in theology, and there's a really interesting talk that he gave at GDC 2 or 3 years back, which if you go to YouTube and search for Classic Game Post-Mortem, The Bard's Tale, you'll be able to hear his roughly hour-long talk on the development of the game, and around the 41-minute mark he begins to share how his Christian beliefs and theology impacted gameplay design for him. And so I found that talk to be really interesting. Now, this game did not have him really hands-on in the development. He might have been a consultant or something like that, but I'm curious if any of the Christian themes or illusions that were in the early games of the series have continued on into this installment. So, yeah, I'm curious about a number of things. Let's get into it. Oh, I do appreciate that they have combat difficulty settings. That's nice. Normally on action games, I would go with easy. And depending on, you never know what a developer's idea of easy is and hard and all that kind of stuff. It's very relative. So, but I think since it's a turn-based RPG, which is kind of what I grew up on, I'll try normal and see how we do. Oh, that's nice. So they do give you the option. I heard early in the game's, release, you couldn't save except for at these luck stones, but I have real life to live now and then, so I definitely want to be able to save wherever I want. Oh my gosh! Am I really seeing this correctly? Can I skip puzzles? Oh my gosh. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily allow me to skip all puzzles. It says toggle on off the Struggler's Lament, which will open most doors that are locked by puzzles. Oh my gosh. I'm totally doing that. I'm totally doing that. If they would have given me the option to skip puzzles in God of War, I would still be playing God of War. I love that developers are thinking of this and doing this. I love it. Gosh, part of me wants to try the grid movement just because that's what I've really gotten used to with some of these turn-based dungeon crawlers. But I think originally this game was designed to have free moves, so I think I'll start with that at least.
The Dark One came to stay, till men of old, for blood and gold, had rescued a Scarab Bray.
Oof, this isn't serving the game very well for me. I'd rather that was just a still image. That looked a bit low budget to use live actors kind of with an effect filter over them. Maybe that's meant to be a callback to older games in this series? I don't know. Not a good first impression. Dude, I'm excited about that skippable puzzles thing. This loading is taking longer than I'd want it to.
These are the villains who seek to turn Scarab Bray into a pit of depravity. Elves, dwarves, drow, and practitioners of the dark arts. Enemies all, whose wicked lives must end if our city is to live in peace again. Thus, children, shall the Sword Father smite all who befriend the old races. For the Sword Father knows it is the followers of the old ways who are killing the people of Scarab Bray, who are sacrificing us to their dark and bloody-handed gods.
So, surprise, surprise, some representative of organized religion is super judgy and oppressive and... The Fatherites. So they're an organized religion that worships a father god of some kind. So it looks like they're going to be retreading well-worn ground, which I kind of roll my eyes at a bit. I mean, at this point, I'm not even like... I'm long since done being irritated as a believer that this trope is being used. It just becomes kind of tiresome and uncreative, Thankfully, that's not what I come to this kind of game for. I come to it for the gameplay, so hopefully we'll get into that soon. The textures and, the animations are certainly not cutting edge. I mean, this looks like it could be an Xbox 360 game so far, easily. Okay, so they start you out with a default character, Melody the Bard. She's your first adventure, but you can replace her, it looks like, with a custom character, which I'm sure I'm going to be able to want to do. I love creating a party from scratch. Okay, so it's definitely not like an open city experience of a lot of other RPGs. I mean, I can't talk to most people. Oh, cool. I love collecting herbs. Love that Skyrim flower picking.
Turn thou from superstition.
Next.
Only the temple has the answers.
Only the temple has the answers, that religious dude is saying. So, also a statement against exclusivity of truth claims.
Death to the elves, lest thou sin.
Think not lest thou sin.
Is all.
Faith is all, oh my gosh. I mean, if that's meant to be a commentary on Christianity, it's really a misunderstanding of Christianity and the misunderstanding of the concept of faith. The Greek New Testament word for faith is much more akin to our word trust, where it's not something that is entered into blindly, but is earned. I guess the writers haven't heard of reasonablefaith.org. Boy, I'm hearing lots of characters singing different songs. There's lots of singing just by the random NPCs that you pass by in the town. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but it definitely gives this game a flavor and an identity that seems appropriate.
Burn this den of evil to the ground!
This way, hero! Hurry!
Now, I like that method of storytelling much more than that weird pseudo-live-action thing at the beginning. Oh, man. I'm a little bummed because your race determines, like, some bonuses that you have, and I'm trying to make a magic user here, and it only really makes sense for me to choose an elf because they get plus 30% intelligence and plus 1 maximum spell points, but I don't really like the look of the elf. I want like a crotchety old human male wizard, you know? You're really stuck with these locked in, you know, these portraits. The portrait totally locks you into a very specific character appearance, and I wish that I could further customize the look of my characters. Okay, that's nice. So it costs you something, but there is the potential to kind of take back some upgrade choices that you've made as you get further into the game and kind of respec your character a little bit. I'm not a fan of having to save on the same save slot every time. I like being able to have multiple slots in case I dig myself into a hole. Whoa, what? You've discovered a celestial offering altar. These statues reward powerful items if you offer the right objects. However, they are not required to complete your adventure. To figure out which items to offer, you will need the Celestial Code Wheel and the Adventurer's Celestial Almanac. The Code Wheel can be found by visiting blah 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 URL. The Almanac is located inside the Adventurer's Guild. I don't know. I mean, I know why they're including the Code Wheel. That's a very retro PC gaming reference. And I've gained some tolerance for getting online to check out wikis and stuff like that because of my love of Monster Hunter World. But really my preference is that all the information that you need to tackle the puzzles and things in front of you are available in the game itself. Alright, I got on and I'm looking at the Code Wheel, and I guess I have to use that in conjunction with the Almanac and the Adventurer's Guild. I don't know. It's too complicated. I have an idea. I won't be messing around with that little part of the game. Okay, so you have these opportunity points, 3 as you start out, that you can use to assign actions to people in your team. So theoretically, if my magic user had another ability that was not on cooldown, I could use that. Yeah, I just don't have sufficient spell points for that. Okay, interesting. Nice. Exploration is rewarded. Okay, I think I'm getting a handle on the magic system. You actually, it looks like, start each battle with 0 spell points, and you need maybe both opportunity points and spell point. No, wait a minute. This ability I need 1 spell point for. I don't have any. I've got 0 out of 3 spell points right now, and I gain those over the course of the battle. That's weird. That's counterintuitive to me. I'm used to games where you start at full, like, magic points or whatever. Maybe that's meant to simulate that as a magic user you're kind of getting ready to cast your spell. I can see that. Okay, okay. But this ability doesn't take any spell points. It just takes an opportunity point. Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I like the combat animations. They're not drawn out and overly produced like in a JRPG. I mean, at some point, those just become tiresome. But they do have, like, flair and spectacle to them. They're just really fast, and so it keeps the pace of combat moving, even though it's a turn-based RPG. That's when I think that turn-based RPGs are really playing to their strengths, because people can think of them as like a really slow, oh, it's turn-based, oh, it's slow and boring. No, 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 no. If you make a turn-based RPG correctly with your combat animations and how your menus work, then the combat in a turn-based RPG can move as fast as you move in your decision-making. But if you've got an active time battle system and your decision-making is too fast for the speed you have it set at, then you end up waiting for your meter to charge up, and that's when, ironically, it becomes a slow and boring affair. All that to say, I really like the combat design, the menu design for the combat, and the pacing of the combat as a result of the animation choices they're making. And yet still aesthetically it's totally scratching the itches that I want. Cool. Okay, so the luck stones are still useful if you're not using them to save because they refill your health, so that's cool. Love smashing barrels. What is that? We both said it at the same time. Oh, jeez! Oh, man! Dude, I was in my menus, but the worlds obviously kept going on. I'm not a fan of that. Oh my gosh, it has an insta-kill attack? I really don't like that either. Oh my gosh, this thing has tons of HP. Okay, please tell me he can't both move and attack on the same turn. Otherwise, if he can, I'm hosed. Oh, good. Oh, jeez! I was confused at first about which abilities cost an opportunity point versus which cost a spell point. But it was right there in front of me, right beneath the name. If it's got a yellow diamond, it's an opportunity point. If it's got one or more blue diamonds, it's a spell point that it costs. Okay. I'm wrapping my head around it. It's just offset enough from what I would normally expect from this type of game that I'm just kind of having to get used to things. Nice. And that was like a weird-looking creature, too. I love bizarre creature designs in role-playing games. Nice. Oh, nice. Yeah. Love that feeling. Yeah, if you want to pause the game, you don't do it by entering your inventory. You got to actually bring up a specific pause menu, like hit the options button. I definitely have mixed feelings about that. At least you can pause. That's the important thing, because I got a family that needs me now and then. I wonder what this feels like going into, like, grid-based mode. Oh, it's a feature that's only in beta right now. Oh, but it puts, like, all these, like, markers on the floor. Whoa, was that just a diagonal move? Oh. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. It does, I mean... It seems like the game probably wasn't built from the ground up to function in a grid-based layout. And if you can make diagonal moves, that just takes away from what I think of as it being a grid-based experience. I question how well optimized this game is. You know, I've mentioned that the graphics look like Xbox 360, you know, quality, and yet there's still, like, say, pop-in on graphics, like when I inspect this flute up close. Well, there was pop-in the first time I looked at it. Let's see if we can see it on another one. There, yeah, see that pop-in there? And it's not like it's this really intricately detailed texture on the items. So, and the load times too aren't great. I mean, the first one was the longest, just getting into the basic game. Anyway, hopefully they'll fix that with some updates to optimize it a little bit better.
Yes, I am a Fatherite, but I no longer take orders from Bishop Henrid or any of his compatriots. It is they who are not Fatherites, for they have abandoned the Sword Father's tenets.
Okay.
Thus, I have broken with them and come here to this refuge to do what a priest must always do. Help the helpless and teach those who wish to learn.
Okay, now this is a little bit of nuance that you don't usually see in classic medieval-inspired RPGs. You know, when there's very often a monotheistic, heavily organized, and authority structure-based religion, some kind of order, almost always monotheistic. But here we've got a member of that order who says, no, listen, yeah, I am a Fatherite. I do worship this father figure, whatever it is, but they are not true worshippers of that god. And I think there's a parallel there to what happened with the Inquisition and the Crusades, that those horrible things that were done by people professing to be Christians who may actually have been Christians in some form, to the degree that they were doing these horrible things, they were in disobedience to the teachings of Christ. And likewise today, you know, when you have nutjob Christians that are just shouting hateful things, then, you know, as a Christian, I'm thinking to myself, they are not in line with the teachings of Christ right now. But you usually don't see that nuance, those different strands of, I was going to say Christianity, or what represents Christianity, in these types of stories, in these types of games. So this is a welcome addition. All right, so let's hear about the Sword Father, this god that he worships.
The Sword Father was a man once,
Oh.
a king of Lestris who valiantly drove out foreign invaders and sacrificed himself for the security of his people. Such was his honor and goodness that he became a god upon his death, and his daughter, known as the Blessed Lady, an all-merciful goddess. Together, they watch over mankind, the Father inspiring them in times of trouble, the Blessed Lady comforting them when the storm has passed.
Okay, so this is a god that's not worthy of worship because he was not perfect and infinite and all-powerful from the get-go. It seems like in some ways it's based on just the barest trappings of Christianity. Jesus took on humanity to himself. He added humanity to himself, but he didn't, like, start out before being God, start out as a human. I mean, that would be a Mormon teaching, but that's not Orthodox biblical Christianity. And then, you know, there's this Blessed Lady, which sounds kind of Catholic, but instead of it being the mother figure, it's a daughter here, so that, you know, they're kind of mixing things around. I think they're probably taking inspiration from Catholicism and just, like, shaking things up and mixing them around, you know? I like the voice acting, but I think I'm probably, if I can get the option, gonna turn it off. I just read a lot faster than actors typically perform their lines, and I usually want to get through the story and the dialogue stuff more quickly so I can get to, you know, the meat of what I play these games for. One thing I'm not seeing that is a little disappointing is a lot of offensive spell variety. Now, maybe it's not necessary, you know, I'm used to having a lot of different elemental spells. So there's multiple ice spells and multiple fire spells and multiple lightning spells and multiple earthquakes. I mean, you know, all these different kinds of spells that represent different elemental damage, you know. But maybe this is a game that doesn't deal a lot in elemental damage. I don't know. I just, in most D&D inspired games, and most role-playing games in general, for that matter, I'm used to, over the course of the game, learning this large variety of spells, each with different animations and stuff. And I get the impression that maybe I'll just be working with the same less than a handful of spells and spell animations, but maybe they'll just do more damage as I grow as a character. I'm not sure. If that's the case, that would be a little disappointing to me, and it looks like it is. I don't see any indication that I will, as, say, in Pillars of Eternity, have a spell book where I'm just going to learn over the course of the game a ton of different spells. Pray to the Shrine of Michael Cranford. Huh. Okay, free XP for just... I guess my soul is pretty cheap. I'll just pray to whoever for experience. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of frame stuttering, too. Man, I really do hope that they just apply some patches to improve the performance overall in this game. I'm thinking they've got to. Oh, gee, he's red! He's red! Oh my gosh!
Who's there?
No one! Defeat the Trow in front of Roscoe's Emporium. Do I need another party member? I mean, that one dude was with me before. Am I just... Are they... Like, all the enemies are red now. Man, that frame stuttering is not good. My PS4 fan is also kind of kicking in now and then. I'm just thinking, it should not be kicking in like that for this. So I don't have this mercenary token that I need to add anybody to my party. And the NPC that they started me with is now, like, pretty settled in at this guild place. I am going to dial this down to easy until I get another party member. Oh, they're impossible. Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do then.
Someone there!
No! Crap!
Hey,
they're all red, which means that they're impossible for me to defeat right now. Am I just not supposed to be playing with a magic user as my primary character at this point? Alright, I'm gonna go look for a walkthrough. Because I don't want to freaking waste my time trying to do the impossible. Alright, well, I get the feeling that I'm at least not supposed to go that way, maybe not even try to take on the quest that requires me to. Okay, first puzzle, easily enough. I don't think there's getting through this without a fight. Oh good, they're green. It's fine by me.
Last chance to run, ya craven!
Let's see here, and then move here. Oh, can I? Crap. Can I take that back? No, I can't. All right. Guess I will meditate and gain a spell point. Ugh. Not too bad though. Nice. Okay. Blocked. Oh, another puzzle. Alright. Every now and then I'm also hearing like little pops and glitchy sounds in the audio. It's very subtle, but they're there and they are recurring. You know, it's a little disappointing. Just kind of takes me out of the experience a little bit. For a game that looks like this, I just want it to be a much smoother experience. I mean, really, even if it looked better, I'd want a smoother experience, you know? Oh, man. Some of these stutters could almost be called short freezes. Gosh, it would be nice if the journal would keep track of the things that I have read. There was a note back in one of the main social areas that presented a clue about a key that I could find somewhere to use at another door, and I might be near it right now, I'm not sure, but I'd have to run back there to read that document, or I'd have to write it down, you know, which maybe that's part of like the purity of like an old school Bard's Tale game is, you know, that you would be expected to write stuff down. I mean, they have an option in here to turn off the auto mapping in case you really want to get out grid paper and make your own map while you're playing this game. But I wish something like that was a feature that was at least optional as well. Alright, what's this? I'm not even sure about what I'm supposed to be doing here. You know what? That's a beautiful song. You know, it's interesting, it just occurred to me, I got rid of the default Bard character that you're given at the beginning, and I chose to swap in a magic user instead, but I still have these song mechanics available to me to turn off the puzzles, and now there's a song I can sing here to highlight hidden areas. Oh good, and it takes the glyph away once you've collected the associated hidden stash. Okay, cool, I like that. That'll be fun. Anything that they can add to the game that's going to make me interested in looking around my environment, exploring my environment. I really like exploring in role-playing games. I think I'm... Yeah, it looks like I'm supposed to go there.
If you think...
Your story ends here.
Oh boy. It just might. Okay, no targets in range. Crap. Huh, well, what can you do? Well, let's try this. That's good at least. Nice, okay. I'm thinking that he should move back. Nice.
Adventurous!
Okay, so we got a magic user. Actually, let's do the caltrops thing. Will I get them all if I get this space? How does this work? Let's see here. Throw caltrops at all target spaces. Direct hits deal 2 physical. Empty spaces gain caltrops, dealing 6 true and rooting enemies that move onto them. Caltrops last 2 turns. Not sure I understand the spacing on this. Let's see. I want to at least get that wizard. Nice. Dang, that's really a great attack. Who is sleeping? Are you making fun of me because I'm not taking my turns fast enough? I don't know. Whatever.
Eating my brain!
Oh, sweet. Let's see. If I take him out, this guy will probably attack, but maybe his damage won't be as bad. Alright, we'll take this guy.
Coming through. Brothers! Sisters! Why are you doing
I think I might have accidentally kept it on easy. This feels too easy, given that they were like oranges and a few reds, I think. I'll have to check and maybe switch it back after this. You know, I haven't commented yet on the user interface with Gamepad, and I've really been liking it. I mean, it's clear that it got a complete overhaul so that it wouldn't, you know, it could be totally fine without a mouse. It feels very intuitive for me, all the, you know, the radial menus and things like that, navigating the inventory. Yeah, it's working for me. Yeah, I'm really starting to enjoy the vibe of this world. You know, the grittiness, the brown and grayness of it. You know, that is totally my thing. And there's a darkness to the world thematically. There's, you know, the bad guys are really kind of dark. This couple here, the lady was sick. The dude gave his arm up to a practitioner who said that he could use his arm to heal her, and it didn't work. And they're not playing it for laughs, you know? It's just this really kind of dark little side story of these NPCs you run into. It's totally my thing. What I'm not seeing for some reason is the ability to compare items in the shop to what my character is wearing. And look at item options, inspect, it just shows me a picture, or doesn't because the game is not up to it. Is it because I don't have training in sorcerer's robes? I thought I had seen like a comparison pop-up windows before in a shop, but maybe I'm remembering wrong. I don't know why I'm not seeing it now. Alright, so now I'm getting a pop-up comparing this shop item to what my guy has equipped. It looks like you at least have to have proficiency or the ability to potentially use the item in the shop in question in order for your own item to show up, which is a little bit lame because what if I haven't upgraded to the skill necessary yet to equip that weapon? Knowing how much more powerful that weapon would make me might give me incentive to use my skill points to upgrade to be able to use that weapon. It might seem like just kind of a technical detail, but the upgrading process is a big part of the appeal for me, and so I like the interface to really help that process along and make it enticing. Oh crap! I wasn't paying attention! Alright, well, what happens? Okay. So, if as long as somebody survives the fight, the fallen guys come back with 25% health. Alright. Okay, so one significant mechanic is this idea of, like, concentration, or focus, I mean. Whenever, like, one of the bad guys has purple energy kind of swirling around his icon, that means he's getting ready to do some kind of super powerful attack. And so I need to try and interrupt that either by using mental damage or something called true damage. Other types of damage won't do it, but you want to break that focus so they can't do their super powerful attack. And that's a nice mechanic, since I'm not so far seeing a lot of like elemental weakness type stuff, which would be typical of a lot of these types of RPGs. I like that little element to have to keep in mind. I'm starting to get the handle of things and being able to make my choices more quickly, and the combat is keeping pace with me, which is really cool. I just realized this taunt ability. I didn't know what that icon was. I was like, what am I looking at? That's a dude's butt. That's the symbol for the taunt maneuver. Nice. Very cool. I'm feeling it. Well, they got themselves spaced pretty well. Yeah, battle is definitely a lot about positioning. Similar to, like a JRPG where you have, the front row and the back row, but it's a little bit more involved than that. But it's not all the way to like a tactical RPG. Like the bad guys can't, if they have enough movement, walk around and like flank my guys, and I can't flank them. We're still each limited to 2 rows of depth, and we have to stay on our side of the battle lines. And I like that as a happy medium because I'm not always in the mood for, a full-on tactical RPG where you can move anywhere on the battlefield. And yet this adds a little bit of depth to something that, in other games might be a little bit too simplistic. So I think in terms of like tactics, the normal difficulty might be like my sweet spot for a really enjoyable experience for me. That's where that singing is coming from. I kind of like the very, musical nature of this is a singing culture. It's not just the bards that sing. Each of your characters, like your dwarf has a song that he sings that triggers him smashing through stuff. It's just a very musical culture conceptually. And that's interesting. I mean, it takes this world that is in many ways very cookie cutter, dark, grim, medieval D&D inspired type aesthetic, and it adds something to it that is actually very unique in this type of setting for the world to be a world of where more people sing. And as someone who, I got my degree in vocal performance, I got a soft spot for that kind of idea. Oh, dude, this guy looks tough. Whoa! What the crap? Is this guy some kind of he's got to be a shapeshifter. Okay, interesting. Oh! Oh, he's still concentrating. Finally. Whew, I don't know what he was prepping there, but I didn't want any part of it. Oof. Yeah, I am digging this. I'm digging this. Nice. I like the sound design too. Like I can't explain why, but like the sound effects have a nice earthy quality to it, and there's knots of lice. I don't think there are any knots of lice, but there are lots of nice Foley effects too. Like the tightening of the string on the bow, has like a nice sound to it, and like pulling the cork off of a potion when you drink it, glick, glick, glick. I mean, that's all those little earthy kinds of Foley effects. Really are nice for me. Oh crap, I need 2 opportunity for that. Oh, dang it. Okay. Well, let's try this again. There we go, nice. The battle music also, isn't overdone or overproduced. It has a cool kind of Gaelic sound to it, as opposed to the stereotypical, heavily orchestrated Lord of the Rings, Hans Zimmer type thing. And I like that. I think it adds to that overall grounded, earthy vibe to the whole thing. And yet the magic still has some nice flair and spectacle to it. I love those two elements together in my fantasy movies and RPGs and stuff like that, to have a gritty, dark world, but with fantastic spectacle in the magic. Yeah, I've spent 5 hours experiencing the game. I don't want to say playing the game, because, you know, sometimes I did briefly get off for about maybe 10 minutes to look some stuff up online, and I did spend some time, you know, looking at the skill trees and reading a lot of, you know, information and stuff. I don't know, I guess arguably that's playing the game, but I don't feel like I'm 5 hours into the gameplay, like the dungeon crawling, the main meat of the game, but I'm 5 hours into what this experience is likely to be for me going forward, which is going to involve maybe some stopping and starting, maybe some looking stuff up every now and then online. I don't know. Even 5 hours in, I feel like it's way too early to know if this is really going to hook me for the long haul. But right now I'm hooked. Right now I'm totally interested and engaged. And yet I know there are systems further in, like poison and being set on fire and stuff like that, that one of my characters is immune to, and it hasn't even become relevant to the gameplay yet. So there's so much I haven't seen, but what I have seen really has me wanting to play more. As I've said already a number of times, I really like the world and the setting and that vibe. It doesn't bother me that the graphics are, you know, low texture and kind of Xbox 360 looking. They still convey the artistic intent of the designers, I think. I turned the voice acting off just to get through dialogue more quickly, but I did think it was really pretty good. The difficulty seems to be right in a sweet spot for me, right at normal, and, you know, I can dial it back to easy anytime I want, which is really nice. I am disappointed in the optimization and feel like it should be performing a lot better on my PlayStation 4, but it's certainly not so annoying that it's going to keep me from wanting to play the game. But please, In Exile, please patch it to run a little more smoothly. It's true that I don't see, at least at this point, the potential for a lot of different types of offensive spells for my magic user, which I typically really like in these kinds of games. But there are other things in the skill tree that I'm interested in. I'm more interested in the rogue than I've ever been in the rogue class before, and his ability to make basically like volatile potion bombs, poison bombs, and stuff like that. That's really interesting to me. And honestly, I was almost already sold at skippable puzzles. That is awesome. I hope more and more developers will put that into their games, realizing that some people may be coming to their games for all the other cool things they're doing and just not want to deal with puzzles. And for that matter, since we live in a world of console gaming that no longer has cheats like from the Game Genie and stuff like that, and I'm not at all interested in being a PC gamer, you know, primarily, I'm hopeful and really appreciate, you know, seeing more and more developers just create a greater variety of options in general for difficulty settings or tailoring various aspects of the gameplay to the player's preferences. So I applaud In Exile and any developer that makes moves in that direction. Thematically, it's doing almost nothing new. It's, you know, trotting out the same tired old, oppressive, monotheistic, organized religion thing, but there, at least it was, as I said, a little bit of nuance in that. Just a little bit. So we'll see what the future holds, but this game is really off to a pretty good start with me. That's all I have to say for now. I'd love to get your thoughts in the comments below, and then I hope you'll join us soon over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a ton going on here at Spirit Blade Productions and Christian Geek Central, including our in-depth Bible study for geeks, movie, game, and other entertainment reviews or commentary, live streams, Christian geek news, original audio dramas, and tons more. And on top of all that, you can become a Spirit Blade insider with an influential voice and get access to exclusive content and rewards. It's your involvement as a patron that will keep all of this going and growing, so I want to thank you for your consideration in that. For more information, please check out our Patreon page through the link below at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Thanks for listening.